Hey yo, G Dash, boy, take your hat off. Fine. This week on Hats Off with G Dash Jones. Oh yeah, hold up. You know I gotta start off with the vibes. You know what I'm saying? It's this hats off situation. Woo! I know y'all ain't think I was gonna start off with the vibes. I always start off with the vibes. It's hats off. Your boy G Dash Jones. We outside. This right here opening song, right? My man DHPOV and Felly Fell. They got a tape called The Lost Kids. It got some vibes on it. It's a little groove joint. It got some vibes on it. This that Don't Want Her by that Felly Fell and DHPOV. Woo! Alright. Alright. With that said, it's your boy G Dash Jones. Hats off. Y'all know what we about to do this week. It's gonna be a vibe. Listen, just kicking it off. Gotta get it rolling. Shouts out to the Delaware Music Network. We just did the open mic jam session. Oh man, Kiana Hunt was up there. She had the vocals. My man Blue Symphony was up there. His tape just dropped too. Blue Notes, fire. I'm gonna play something up for that maybe next week or something. Right. So either way, that was lit. Also, things I just gotta let y'all know. So tomorrow I'm hosting Downtown Visions, right? I'm hosting a block party down off of Knife and Market around that area. Yeah, we outside. My man Nick Snow, he gonna be singing with the vocals. That's a fact. From 5 to 8, we there. And I'm giving away 2 free tickets to Weed Stock, y'all. Say what? 2 free tickets to Weed Stock. If y'all come on down, you come on out to the block party, Downtown Visions. I'm giving out 2 free tickets to Weed Stock to the P Ball. Also, I'm also running a special. I'm running a contest. If listen, I got a reel out there. All you gotta do is watch the reel. However many vendors I mentioned from Weed Stock, go ahead. If you can message me with that number, you getting free tickets to Weed Stock. That's where we at with that one right there. So that's in my reels, but I'll be resharing that. Also, yeah, listen, life is life. So your Weed Stock is going to be September 15th to the 17th. You know your boy hosting that. It's going to be a vibe on that stage. We having the energy, right? Also, I got to mention my show, me and D Harv, October 7th. Okay, listen, y'all. I'm telling y'all right now. That October 7th show is going to be me and D Harv. We going back and forth with the spoken word. He got the vocals. We creating a storyline. The deluxe ticket. Hold up. You going to go ahead and get yourself an infused snack. That's a fact. We're going to get you an infused dessert. Did that just like last time, my man Tom Mathis. The deluxe ticket going to include a meal. My man Chef Rail. Right, we getting that locked in. You feel me? And this time it's going to include a beverage. You feel me? A little an adult. You know what I mean? A little sip and sip. All with the deluxe ticket. So keep your eye out. That's coming. It's what's the people thinking. Me and D Harv. All right. With that said, it's time for me to start to get into this week's show with this week's guest. Okay. Now you might have heard of him, right? If you haven't heard of him, then you've heard of some of the things he has been a part of or have put together, whether it's in front of the screen or behind the screen. That's a fact, y'all. I'm talking about the man behind the Dirty Popcorn Black Film Festival. What? Yes, the Dirty Popcorn Black Film Festival. Ooh, yes, that's a fact. He also is the founder and the CEO of Jet Phynx Films. What? Yes, Jet Phynx Films, Jet Phynx Studios. It's a whole situation my man puts together out here for the culture and for the people. So without further ado, yes, I'm going to bring the man, the myth, the legend up here. My man Jet Phynx. All these things when it comes to the Jet Phynx Films, the movies, the whole suite, if you will. My man, the myth, the legend. How are
I'm
you,
doing
sir?
good, bro. Thank you for having me on the show. Definitely. Thank you for having me on the show. What's good, bro? How you feeling?
I'm good. Thank you for coming on the show. I know, listen, you're a busy man. You be moving and doing all types of things and just changing the world. Listen.
Yeah, a lot of stuff
Oh,
been going on. A lot of stuff been going on. Super busy, but always, always gotta make time for the things that really connect to the people. So I appreciate you having me on here.
listen, okay, I'm here for it. So first, before we even get into it, tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Um, you know, Jet Phoenix. So funny because so many people see my name and they always spell like Jet Finks. You know what I mean? but it's, you know, it's JETPHYNX. There's a backstory why, you know, I was named Jet Phynx. Just the fact that, you know, my father was diagnosed with throat cancer when I was 9, and, you know, from the beginning of, I remember everything between me and him has always been like a creative, like, vibe, you know, from having CO playing in our house was always a big vibe. Designer, so he used to travel to Egypt and all different types of places, so my house was filled with a lot of different like artifacts, different stuff that, like, as a child I was always wondering, like, what is this from, you know, just trying to understand it. But, you know, he couldn't speak, so they had to remove his vocal cords. So everything between me and him, when he wanted to teach me something, it was either through music or through a movie. So, like, you know, if he had an idea or he wanted me to learn something, he would put on a movie. If it was a certain song he'd play that would try to teach me something. So my whole life I was always, in a weird way, was like kind of programmed to communicate through music and film. Just understanding. I tried to do sign language, but he realized that I wasn't able to.
You just cut out. I'm not sure what happened. Like your audio. I'm not sure. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so I mean, so from there, you know, just growing up very creatively, just into music. At an early age, you know, he always seen music in me, so it was just something like, yo, how can I get him more into it? But I was really heavy into sports, and, you know, at that time, loving Michael Jordan, Jerry Rice, 49ers fan, and stuff like that. I thought sports was everything, seeing Jordan and stuff like that, and the way Jordan moved. And my dad was a sports fan, but he just only liked certain people, so. You know, for me, it was just like I just couldn't miss anything that what Jordan was doing or Jerry Rice. So growing up, like, they were like the two sports people that were just like, oh, I was like, oh, I got to be like them. I didn't even think, because at that time wasn't nothing to be like a creative, you know, other than watching MTV, BET jams and stuff like that. But it wasn't nothing to like think, oh, I could be a music artist or something like that. They were, you know, I always liked them guys, but I thought sports was everything. And then when I turned 19, throat cancer full body cancer came, and, you know, they diagnosed him with 3 months to live. So on his deathbed, pretty much, he was just trying to cram in like every little thing into me, like he could get into me, like, yo, I want you to learn about this. I want you to learn about, you know, philosophy, Andy Warhol, this person, this person, like, and at the time I was just overwhelmed by it all because I didn't understand, and plus I didn't even think he was going to die either. You don't never realize, you know, someone's going to die until they actually do. And then on the last on his last day, realistically, which I didn't know, he called me to the house, and I was kind of pissed because I wanted to go hang out with my friends, but he wanted to really talk to me. So what he did was, my real name is Parris Duncan, so he wrote Parris on a piece of paper. He wrote like he wrote. And he's like, put it up to a mirror. And then, and I was like, what does that mean? You know? And then he's like, read it backwards. And then I was like, oh. And then I read it backwards, like SIRRAP, Sir Rap. He's like, rap. And I was like, oh, so you want me to rap? He's like, yeah. He's like, the world didn't get to hear me. Make sure they hear you. So that was just like, he's like, be my voice. So I was like, all right, whatever. I didn't take it that serious, but I, like, you know, boom, I leave there. He dies that night. So then it's just like, damn, like, so like a week later, I'm sitting with my closest friend. His name was Tyreek. He was like, me and him were like best friends. And he was the rapper. You know what I'm saying? I was the sports one. I could rap, you know, make music and shit, but, you know, everybody was always on Reek. And he was like, yo, you got to come up with a name. And I was like, yeah, I should. He's like, your dad died, you know what I'm saying? So what you gonna do? And he's like, man, it's like, we're sitting in like in a trap house too, you know what I'm saying? Like, uh, and he's like passing me the blunt, like, yo, hit the blunt, man. We vibing. Sorry, I don't know if this is censored or not, but
Good.
yeah. So we vibing, and then next thing I know, like, he's like, yeah, man. He's like, it's like you gotta take off. And he's like a jet. And I was like, oh shit, yeah, a jet. Ooh, I like that. So I wrote the word jet down. I was like, oh, I like that. I was like, but I don't want to be called Jet. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's like, yeah, it's kind of by itself because like rappers' names back then, Nas, Jay-Z. People had names that were just like it wasn't. I couldn't go by Parris, even though my name Parris was cool, but I just did. It didn't seem like a lyrical rapper name type thing. Oh, so from there, he's like, yeah, okay, we got Jet. And then we're sitting there, we talking and shit. And then he's like, your dad died, man. He's like, you know what? It's like you got to rise from the ashes. And we both looked at each other. And I hit the blunt. He's like a phoenix. You know what I'm saying? He's like, ooh. He's like, Jet Phynx. So he's like, ooh, that sounds like something. Oh, Jet Phynx. So I was like, okay, bet. That I'm fucking with that Jet Phynx shit. Okay, all right. So I wrote it down. I ain't like the way Phoenix wrote. So like I'm sitting there, and then I could just see my crib being young and all the Egyptian things, and like my mind just went there, and I just saw this Sphinx, and I was like, Sphinx. I was like, they ain't spelled Sphinx, right? They spelled it with an S and all this other shit. Like I was like, a lot of Egyptian words were always spelled in the tones, not actually about like I'm probably messing this up, but not like English writing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I was like, nah, I'm gonna spell Phoenix the way I want to spell it, like Phynx, like Phoenix. And I was like, okay, that's it, Phynx, Jet Phynx, bet. So I'm like, all right, it's on. So now we're like where we're at. I record a song and stuff like that. It's like I put Jet Phynx on the rap line and all this, and then just started getting my music stuff together and kind of helping Tyreek get his thing. But I always thought Reek was the guy. Like I was always like, if we was a group, he was the one and I was the two. You know what I mean? Like, but so we were out on the block one day, and Reek's he was always a loving guy. You know what I mean? And he always wanted to see people do well, and he was so talented, super talented. Like everybody in our block knew he was the one. And crazy out of nowhere, these two dudes start to argue and they get the fighting and shit. And he goes and breaks it up, and one dude pulls out a knife and he ends up stabbing Reek. Reek ends up bleeding to death on the street. The ambulance didn't get there enough time. He ends up dying on the block right in front of us. And you know what I'm saying? So like from that moment, it was just like, oh shit, like my dad just died. Reek just died in a month later. It's like, I really got to take this music shit real serious. I was like, I got to do it for them. And it just became like, it was never about a money thing, no ego thing. It was just straight for them. It was just like, I got to go hard because Reek put everything into music. He was so hype about everything about it. You couldn't tell him he wasn't going to be the next Jay-Z or the next one. You know what I mean? His confidence was through the roof. And same for my dad and how he felt about his life and everything. So it was just like, it's like, yo, I gotta, like, for some weird shit, like I gotta embody their energy, so I just embodied their energy, just was very confident after them, you know what I mean? And I just magically picked up that mic and just like started, I don't know, just out of nowhere, the bars just came and I was able, like, it was just, people were like, yo, Jet got it. Like, it just came out of nowhere. And then I met this guy named Mike Baxter who saw me freestyling one day. Mike Baxter, he was managing he was managing Paul Wall, and he was also managing this producer named Chops out of Philly. So he was around here for Chops, hanging out with Chops, Shout out to some people that you were naming earlier, like D Harv and all them, Fame and all them. I used to rock with them, Equator Lounge and stuff. And like D Harv will tell you about my days, you know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
I used to get it in, back when back when East End Cafe was on Main Street, and it was
Right.
that was the spot. You couldn't rap over, you know, your own tracks. You had to have that lyricism and have them bars and stuff like that. So, you know, Delaware 91.3 and them, they definitely embraced me and was playing my music from Market Tech and all them, like all them guys. They, you know, me coming from Maryland, they super embraced me. My father's side was from Delaware, so I would always come through Delaware. So when I came to University of Delaware, like Newark was just like my stomping grounds. I got a little gig at Flavor, so I was at Flavor back then. Flavor was that store that everybody was like a DTRL before everything. It had all the Woo clothes. It had everything on Main Street. It was like culture. They used to have ciphers and all that stuff there. And I put well, when I met Mike Baxter, he took me up to Philly to go do meet Chops, the producer. And the day I walked in the studio, Kanye sitting on the couch.
Wow.
So Kanye sitting on the couch. So I'm like, oh, this is Kanye, but not, you know, mixtape Kanye through the wire. It's just out, you know what I mean? It ain't like the album hasn't came out yet. The mixtapes are out right now, you know, all
just for the audience, just in case the audience don't know, if you ever watched the Kanye documentary, it was at this point that Kanye was still going into random offices, spitting the verses to people and being like, no.
Yeah, exactly. So it was that Kanye. It was like, you know, so him and Kanye were working on a record. You know, Kanye laid the verse on it, and then Chops laid a verse on it, you know, and because that's what Kanye was like, man, I'm not here to really make a beat with Chops. Because Chops was nice. So he was like, I'm trying to rap on Chops' beat, you know, and, you know, add some kind of instruments on it. So they was like, yo, we gonna go get some Chinese food. And Ye was like, if you can write a verse before we get back from the Chinese food, you can get on the record.
That's Kanye.
Yeah, no, that's classic Kanye, right? Some shit, right? So I'm like, all right, fuck this shit, nigga. I'm gonna write this verse. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna get on. So, yo, they left. I just penned some crazy little verse out real quick. This quick 16. They came back. And at that time, I had a really good like lyrical memory of writing a rap and memorizing it real fast. I'd read it like 4 or 5 times, and then I had it. You know, so they were impressed that I was able to like. At first they thought I freestyled it because they was like, you ain't write this. I was like, no, the paper's right here, and I showed them the paper, and he was like, oh, I said I'm just good at memorizing this shit because for some reason, like with my dad, it was just like when we would communicate and write things down, he would write something down, and then I would just remember what he wrote down, and it was just something that I guess from that training and that train of thought. So wrote the record. Got on the record. Then, you know, they loved the record. Ye was like, yo, I gotta go to Chicago. I'm out. He's like, and Mike was like at that time, Mike Baxter, he wasn't my manager at that time, but he's like, Ye said you can keep the record. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, we're gonna put that on your mixtape. I'm like, for real? He's like, yeah. I was like, I bet. I'm like, all right, cool. He's like, yeah, you got someone him. He's like, yo, tomorrow we about to go to Chicago. So I'm like, all right, to see. Yeah, he's like, nah, we gonna fuck with another artist that's pretty hot in Chicago. He's like, I ain't telling you who it was. So and I ain't even really like flying at that time either. So he's like, I'm like, man, I don't know if I would go to Chicago, you know what I mean? But fuck it, you know, I get on the plane, we get out of Chicago. I don't know where we going. Like nothing. I ain't never been to Chicago. I'm just riding along with this Mike Baxter, white dude, you know what I'm saying? Tall, white dude, skinny. I'm like, all right, whatever. I ain't really, never really, I didn't know if I should trust this dude, but I went with it because it was just like, whatever. He introduced me to Ye and shit. So I'm like, got me a plane ticket to Chicago. I'm like, I'm just going with it. I mean, I'm thinking like, this is what Reek would do. You know what I mean? Like, right. I'm thinking like, this is what Tyreek would do if this was his opportunity. So I'm going to take that, you know, scared inside, but I just kept channeling in him. I said, this is what he do, so I'm going to do it. So bet. So we pull up to a building, we go upstairs, door opens up. It's fucking Lupe on there's a kid playing with toys on the floor. It's fucking Lupe.
Yes.
Recording Kick Push at that.
Right, right.
Yo,
Food and liquor,
yeah,
making food and liquor at the time.
yeah, for sure. He got Soundtrack, who's the producer of that record, making the beat right then, and the beat they in the studio. You know, they playing the beat. I'm like, yo, this shit crazy. I'm like, yo, how you rapping about being on a skateboard? Like, I'm shocked by this whole shit right now. Just like, how's this happening? I'm like, skateboard rapping, but I'm like, all right, bet. You know what I mean? Lupe on the floor with like Transformers and shit, mad toys and shit. Like I'm like, yo, this nigga's different. You know what I'm saying? Like. So I'm like, all right, bet. You know, he's in there recording, and then he plays me a couple of records that he's got with the Gorillas at that time, and I'm like, all right, bet. And he's like, you want to hop on a record with the Gorillas record? I said, for sure. You know what I'm saying? So I hop on the record with him with the Gorillas. So now I'm like, bang. I'm like, I'm leaving Chicago with 2 records from Lupe. Now I got a record from Kanye a couple of days ago. So I'm like, damn, like I gotta get this mixtape jumping. Like I gotta get this all the way in.
Get your tickets now for the What's the People Thinking live music and spoken word improv experience with G-Jones and D-Hall at the MKT Place Gallery. We got food on deck, we got drinks on deck.
Gon' pull up a seat and pull you a shot, then head to the floor, give it all that you got. See my band gon' play and it ain't gon' stop till there's no one left in this whole damn spot. We gon' rock, we gon' roll, we gon' roll, we gon' rock, we gon' rock, we gon' roll, we gon' roll.
So Mike introduced me to this artist from Delaware, John Connors.
Yep.
John Connors, the white boy who's like was quote unquote being the next Eminem at that time. You know what I'm saying? He had a deal. Everybody was on John Connors energy right now. There's really no Eminem at that time, so everybody's like, oh, this white dude, he's labeled in the source as the next big thing. So I'm like, all right, bet. So I got with John, and John was like, let me help co-produce your mixtape. So I'm like, all right, bet. So we just started working. He started helping me get my first mixtape together, and then bang, it's called Rise of the Phoenix. Man, I put that thing in Flavor, and then it was just like, it just went out like fireworks, bro. Like 10,000 copies went straight out. We just pressing up copies. I keep going back to Kinko's, and then my man ended up finding this like distribution company like overseas, and then they introduced me to which would be what is that company called now? Disc Makers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He introduced me to Disc Makers, and then we just started pressing them up like crazy through Disc Makers. So pressing them up, next thing I know, 10,000 copies sold. Mike come to me like, yo, like, I got crazy 2 opportunities for you. Like, I want to introduce you to Dave Williams. And I was like, who's Dave Williams? He's like, oh, Dave Williams, that's Pharrell's brother. So I'm like, Dave Williams, all right. So I'm like, all right, whatever. He's like, yo, Dave want to take you down to meet Pharrell. So I go down to VA with John, meet Pharrell.
And just to be clear, Dave Williams is also the actual designer of ice cream. Like he's the brother that does the designing too, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So Dave, we get down there. They recording fronting for Jay-Z, Pusha T and them in the studio. I'm like, damn, like timeline. I'm listening, seeing how things is going on. So I at that time, I'm watching from the studio. I've never seen somebody step in the booth and like a beat was on, and then he mumbled the whole song way through. And then these niggas came and wrote the lyrics to what he mumbled. I was like, oh shit, what's this new shit? I'm like, are you telling me I get in the booth and don't really say nothing, just mumble a melody all the way through that thing and then come back and write the lyrics to the melody that I heard? I'm like, okay, bet. Is that how they doing it? Okay, all right. I get it. So I went with that, and I started learning from that, and got some game from them, and end up getting an opportunity to sign with Disney. He took me to Disney, and that was my first deal. They put me in artist development with Hannah Montana at that time.
Wow.
So I'm in New York learning choreography, media training, just learning the whole game about like how to like really be an artist. And I swear to you, man, it was just like step after step. It was just like, it was divine for me in any way how it was going. The doors were just opening up. I spent some time with Disney. They didn't really know what to do with me. you know, because they felt like they had something, but they were trying to change what I created from Rise of the Phoenix. So then they end up giving my contract to Sony. So I end up going over to Sony for a while. And I had a good time over Sony, making some good music. I end up making a couple mixtapes and stuff like that. And from there it was just like, okay, what do I do next? My Sony deal came to an end, so I was able to get out and be independent. So I end up moving to New York. So this is where the story gets even more crazier. I moved to New York. Now I'm hanging out at the nightlife of New Yorkers, hanging out with them, going with the club kids, moving with the club kids all around, and end up bumping into this woman named Lady Starlight. And because she was rocking with my man Max. He was a promoter for this club called Greenhouse. So we used to be in this club Greenhouse all the time with Lady Starlight in this place called The Box. It was like the Box was it still exists. It's like an exclusive club where like a Chinese man hangs out in front and he only lets certain people inside of it. It's like burlesque and all types of crazy shit going on in there. You know what I mean?
Wait, how do you get picked to go in? Like, is it the way you look?
The
or
way
is
you
it
look, yeah, you either got to have some girls with you. Okay. It's all about the little whatever vibe he was going on. It was so exclusive, you know what I mean? Like, it was just something different. So one night I got me in there, and I ended up meeting this we Starlight, and she's got this white girl with her, and she like kind of hippie-ish, but she cool, she quiet. We just talking, and we just started drinking and kind of conversation. She's like, yo, I'm really dope at playing piano. And I'm like, oh, that's dope. She's like, I'm just trying to figure out my brand and stuff like that. And then her boyfriend was talking to me. He was like, yeah, he's like, I write songs and stuff. We work with this guy named Joe Volpus. And I was like, oh, I just met Joe Volpus. She's like, oh yeah, you know him? And I was like, yeah, Joe Volpus, he's a trained pianist, and he's also does like scores and mixing for Disney and stuff, because I know him from the Disney situation. So she was like, yeah, I go over to the studio and record with him. So I said, oh, bet. I said, we should go over and hang out one time. So we went over there and hang out, and man, we over there chilling, and Stephanie, which I'll reveal, is Lady Gaga. You get what I'm saying? So we're sitting there watching Andy Warhol videos, talking and shit like that. So now this is where my dad influence come from. Andy Warhol my dad was a big Andy Warhol, and he showed me this one of Andy's muses. Her name was Edie Cedric, and Edie, she invented the Bengali earrings. She invented the girls wearing the liner on their eyes. And then she used to wear ballet pants, which was the thing what they considered now leggings. You get what I'm saying? So she was like coining different. She was like one of the first it girls. And she was from Kansas, but she always used to talk like she was from London and all this stuff, wear these certain circle glasses. And I was like, Stephanie, you should mimic her. Like and she would just play around, and she'd be like, ooh. And then we was listening, and her boyfriend put that song on by Radiohead, Gaga, Lady Gaga, and then she was like, oh, that's a cool name. And then bang, here goes, oh, I'm Lady Gaga, you know what I mean? And then changed the name to like, then she went from being like really into the things, and next you know, we're still hanging out at the Box, going to these parties, and she just started adapting the city energy. And then she just transformed, and we started working on her project. I started working on the branding of stuff behind her, and next thing I know, her dad had some real good connections. He got a connection from an A&R at Def Jam. They got her signed to Def Jam, but Def Jam didn't know what to do with Gaga, because it's like Lady Gaga, you know what I mean? Like that's Def Jam. Def Jam was hip hop, but they saw all the potential, but they just didn't know what to do. So after a year, they dropped her. So after that, she's dropped. And we meet this publicist named Kelly Catrone. She was a publicist she's big time fashion publicist. Like, and she was working on this show called The Hills. She's like, we should get Gaga on The Hills. And she was like, all right, bet. So next thing I know, Gaga went on The Hills, and then everybody was like searching for her. Like, and she just kind of blew up, and then Just Dance just took off overnight. Like, the song just went up. Next thing I know, Jimmy Iovine was like, yo, I want to sign you to Interscope. And now she's like traveling and we're doing all this shit. I'm helping her behind the scenes, you know what I mean? Like watching her like turn into like a female Michael Jackson, watching the people scream for her, like was crazy, because I've never seen people be so excited for, you know. It was very cool to see her in her element, and especially in the earlier years. Yeah, man. And then, you know, I was gonna be her artist. I worked on a project myself that was kind of tailored around the same producers that, you know, Lisa and Wendy, who you know, produced with Prince, end up giving us some records for Gaga, but they didn't use them, so I ended up using them for my project. And then yeah, I ended up putting that out, meeting the vice president of Best Buy. He ended up letting me get my album in all the Best Buys in Delaware, which was a crazy thing. So then I ended up selling over 10,000 copies of that at a Best Buy in Delaware, from Delaware, Jersey, and Maryland. And then Jimmy Iovine was like, yo, I need to sign you. And I flew out to LA, was hanging with him. He was like, brought me in the office, like, listen, Black Eyed Peas is about to break up. So I'm looking for a rapper and a white girl that can sing group. And then I was like, okay. So I'm like, all right, bet, let's try this shit. Whatever. I'm open to the creativity of this stuff. I'm creative. I'm already running around with Lady Gaga already. So at that time, my girlfriend, she kind of sung a little bit, but she had a look. So he pointed to her. He said, she should be in the group. Y'all should be a group. And I'm like, well, she don't really sing that much, but she's all right. You know what I mean? So next thing I know, we end up being a group. We signed a deal. We call it Typical Friday Night. And then we just started working on projects, started having a real crazy buzz in Toronto, Japan, just traveling all over. But it just got tiring for me, you know, because I was just wondering where my career was going from all these different things. So I really wanted out of my deal. So luckily, the money that I made from them CDs selling, I was able to like buy myself out my deal. So I ended up buying myself out my deal, and then I came back to Delaware, and I was like, "Shit, what am I gonna do next?"
Oh,
like,
what? I got a quick question. So, when you got out of that deal, did you get your musical rights, or was it difficult?
No.
Yeah, I'm about to say, you know how to get. Okay, I know how to get. I just had to ask. You know
no, I didn't get you know, that music. I mean, I have access to it, but no, I don't own none of it. No, you know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. I just wanted freedom. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Luckily, I was able to work a deal with Interscope where, excuse me, I didn't take a upfront money, because so I didn't take no advance. So the only thing I had to pay back was the studio time. But I had to give up everything. I had to, you know, at that time, labels they'd buy you your house, because you know, I ain't got no credit. They gave me the car, the range, and all that. So I had to give the car, the Range Rover back, all that, all the shit back. But it was cool though, you know. It is what it is, you know, because it was more about what I wanted and I felt in my heart. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I didn't look at myself as quitting. I just felt that it just wasn't going in the direction that I wanted to go. But I knew God had a different plan for me. I was always confident in that part. And he did. He showed up for me. It's very important that I tell people, like, when you don't think God got you, he always got you. You know what I mean? Even through the darkness times. So once I came back to Delaware, all my industry friends told me I was stupid. They're like, yo, you signed to Jimmy Iovine. You about to be one of the biggest pop star artists out here. What you complaining about, bro? Like, what's wrong? Like, I just said, it just didn't fit right. There's some things with the industry that just didn't sit right with me as an artist. So, you know, when I came back, I packed all my bags and stayed with my mom for a month. And I was like, okay, what's the next move, God? And then a friend of mine was like, man, like, do one more song, man. Now that you're free, man, your music talents are so good. Just do one more song. And I was like, my cousin Yanni was like, what you gonna do? And I was like, all right, I'm gonna do one more song. So I made a song, and I was like, well, I gotta get a video. I've been around all these people who shot videos before, so I know how videos to be made. So I was like, you know, at that time, my girlfriend mom had a camera. She's like, well, you can use this camera. And I was like, all right, can you hold it? And you'll shoot me, and then I'll edit it. And that's what I did. Literally, she shot me and I edited it. And then next thing I know, like, I put that video out, and the people were like, song's cool. Who did the video? And I was like, I kind of, I mean, I did. My girl shot it, but I did. But it was like, could you do me a video? And I was like, bet. All right. You know, I'm like, yeah, I'll shoot you a video. And then it just started. Like I did 5 videos for people. And then I'm like, all right, this video shit kind of cool, but I don't know what to charge for this. Like, this ain't I don't know. At that time, there wasn't no gimbals, there was no Instagram getting with videos. There wasn't none of this energy. People weren't really nobody's even talking about a videographer or a cameraman like that. That stuff was just getting hot. Instagram was just all about photos at that time. You know what I mean? So my thought was, I'm just going to pose with my camera. And I just made cool imagery of me posing with the camera that I think everybody kind of does now. You know what I mean? It's kind of strange. And then, you know, from there, it just became like this vibe that I was doing. And I knew to get myself out there, I was like, here's my plan. At that time, most music people charge around 500 for a video. That was like super high, or the price point for a music video going around. So I was like, I'm going to charge 150. And I'm going to do the same thing they do. I'm going to charge 150. I'm going to shoot 100 videos. And then after that, I'm going to be able to change my price to 500. That was my game plan. So next thing I know, through a whole year, I'm shooting every day for people, because it's 150 shit. And I'm giving the work. You know what I mean? I'm putting Jet Phynx on everything. I'm putting it on every video I got. Next thing I know, it's just like, it's catching wind. I looked up, it's 200 videos shot. You know what I mean? Like, damn, I done shot 200 videos. Now I got record labels reaching out, video commissioners reaching out like, yo, we saw your work. You want to shoot for this person? And